All right, we're live.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, doing great, doing fantastic. All right, we're reporting live to you all from the Jedi Temple. I am your host, Josh aka Jamor, and today I have a very special guest for you all today. He's best known for his role as Quinlan Vos in Star Wars The Clone Wars series, Ajax and Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Slackjaw and Dishonored, Colonel Dog and Supernatural, El Gallo, and Sebastian in Cyberpunk 2077. His voice can be heard and his face could be seen in multiple projects ranging from on camera, on stage, animation to video games. He has over 60 plus credits to his name, including his extensive 50 plus credit resume for his ADR looping. Please help me give a warm welcome to the amazing BFA holder, multi-talented actor, and fellow Puerto Rican and NYC native, Al Rodrigo. How you doing,
All
Al?
right,
Welcome,
man. Can you
welcome,
can you do
welcome.
my introduction anytime I'm not going anywhere? That was awesome, man.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on to speak with me today. I'm a huge fan of your
Thank you,
work,
man.
and
Thank you for
and
having me.
absolutely. I'm just such a huge fan of your body of work and so proud of you for the work you've put in and a lot of the work you've done and still are doing. So it is a massive honor to be bringing you on today, and I hope to be able to give you a fun and memorable experience today. So yeah,
Cool.
thanks
Sounds
again.
good.
Awesome. Well, the reason I love doing these is just getting not only to speak about your work, but also getting to know more about the man behind that long, fantastic resume. So, my first question to you is, how did your
hmm
childhood environment influence your career path and your perspective as an artist in this industry? Like I said in the beginning, you were originally from
hmm
New York, like me, born in Queens. I was born in Queens. I don't know where you're from,
Yeah, yeah. I
but
was born in Corona, like John Leguizamo.
that is so cool.
Yeah, who I actually got a chance to. I've worked with a couple of times. He's doing a new musical now, Kiss My Aztec, and I worked with it. I worked on it when it was out here in California. A super fun musical. And John talks about Corona. Really, he's brilliant in describing growing up in a very non-Latino environment back then, because we're talking now the '60s and '70s. So there were very few Puerto Rican families in the neighborhood, so we got a lot of cool multi-ethnic characters besides the Latinos, and he does a great job parroting those guys, because it was a nice tough neighborhood, and it was a tough neighborhood for a kid to be an actor in, because I started acting when I was a kid. I started actually in elementary school, very young, and then I it just the bug bit me when I was a kid, and then I went to the High School of Performing Arts, and when I went to Performing Arts High School, that changed the whole deal for me, because it kind of introduced me to theater in New York City. Got to see Broadway shows, and I realized, man, I could really do this. So I had some great training at Performing Arts. Worked with a lot of people that went on to have really amazing careers, like Isai Morales, Ving Rhames, Lorraine Toussaint, all people in my class around my my years there. And so I started performing, doing everything, doing theater, doing musical theater. I was in a Latino theater company as a teenager. When I was young as 14, we used to tour New York City, all the boroughs. We would do songs from Puerto Rico and Latin America, and we would perform literally on stages we build on the streets, and we just go from
Wow.
borough to borough, and that was like amazing training, man, to like perform throughout New York City live, and I did that years later when I worked at the Public Theater. We toured with a show about AIDS when AIDS broke out in the '80s for the first time, and really kind of wreaked havoc on the city. We did a touring show where we just had a boombox, which young people may not know what that boombox is, but it's like a big radio with speakers and a cassette, and you just used to play your music that way. Very different than today with your phone. But we went around and just talked about, we did skits about different people getting AIDS, dealing with AIDS, and teaching people about AIDS. And it was pretty amazing. So I jumped around a lot of years, but my background and is theater, and that's really like what got me going, you know, doing theater, because I did a lot of theater from the age of 14 till now. I just literally closed a play here in Los Angeles last weekend, which was pretty fantastic. So I'm still doing theater, and then I got into TV, got into voiceover, commercial. I've kind of done it all, man. Just kind of kept myself busy. I've been very lucky. I've been working for a long time, as you pointed out with my credits. Did that answer your question? Did that answer your question?
Yeah. No. You did great. I'm sorry. I've been moving around. My computer was acting wacky.
Okay.
You know how technology is sometimes. I had to move some stuff around.
Well,
Yeah.
technology, man. I just got a new phone yesterday, and that was like a catastrophe, because I didn't transfer all my info on it fast enough, and then I had to go on with tech support, and that was like 2 hours. So, man, technology is a trip. But, you know, when it works well, it works well. When it doesn't work well, it's always a problem, as you know. Yeah.
I'm just trying to move stuff around. I don't know if it's me. It's probably me, but it sounds like your mic is like cutting in and out. For me,
Oh,
it's
is
like
it?
kind of like, yeah, it sounds
You
kind
know,
of like
I'm
weird.
actually on my iPhone. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, no, I can hear you, but it just sounds like it sounds like static. It sounds you have feedback in your mic.
Oh, I have feedback. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh no, you're fine.
I just kind of
Okay.
lifted it off of a stand. I didn't know if that would help it. How's
No,
that?
you're fine. It's still there, but it won't be bad. It's fine. It's fine. I'll add music and stuff in the background, post editing, and we should be good to go. So it's all good. It's
Okay,
all
cool.
good. No worries at all. But yeah, man, that sounds awesome. I was researching you, and I remember reading in your bio on your website that you've been doing this for since you were a kid, you know. And I have the same way, you know. I would do musicals and tap dance, and you know, all into that theater thing. I kind of fell out of it. When I say like around middle school. I want to say around middle school, I kind of fell out of it, but you know, the acting bug and just wanting to perform and entertain has never left me, and
Right,
I
right.
just love it. It's so much fun. Yeah.
Well, you're doing it now. I
To-
mean, you're a good, really dynamite host of your show. So, you know, you're performing now, man. Not everybody
oh,
can do
thank
what you do.
Th- Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey, man. I just seriously cannot believe I'm still here doing this. And it's funny that I'm still doing this because you know people have heard this before, but I never intended for this to go past 3 interviews, and now I'm like almost at 90. So it's like really crazy to be here to speak to
Right,
you and
right.
speak to so many other great talents in
Yeah,
this
but you know
industry.
what?
It's
It's
such a blessing.
dynamite. It's really great for people, young people, to see, you know, to have role models, to see people who have continued in the business, who have had some success, or you know, whatever their journey's been in their career, but that they've done it. And that's like the best thing for young people to see that you can have a dream, and you can do it, and you can go for it, no matter where you come from. You know, when I grew up in Corona, not a lot of people were doing what I've done. You know, there was a handful of us. So the fact that I had my dream and I wanted to go for it, and I was lucky enough to go to performing arts, like once that happened, it was like my whole world opened up, and you realize. And now, and back then, there weren't as many Latinos who had really made it mainstream, were doing all the things that Latinos do today, you know. And so it's the business has changed a lot, you know. And so it's great that you are just putting all, you know, all of us out there for everybody to see, man, because you can do it. It's doable.
Definitely. If you have the passion and the drive for it and are willing to put in the hours, anything is
Yeah,
possible.
yeah,
Any
yeah,
dream you
yeah,
have,
yeah. And yeah,
absolutely.
you do, and that's the other thing. You got to work. I mean, you got to study. You got to hone your craft. You have to be committed and stay in the game and train because it's very competitive, and a lot of people have the dream, but those who stay in it and have what it takes, you will have work. You will have a career. You know.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
What made New York so special for you and the time you were growing up as a Latino man?
There's no place like New York. New York is like the most it's the greatest melting pot of every culture, every socioeconomic background, every style, every rhythm. I mean, New York is unto itself. And growing up in the city, I grew up in Queens up until I was like 13, 14, and then I went into Manhattan. And then once you go into Manhattan, it's like, whoa, like this is like a whole other trip. And that was a huge education for me because I realized that not everybody was like all the people I knew in Queens, in Corona. And so that was a new experience for me. But growing up and going to high school in Manhattan, it just kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities that I could pretty much do everything that be anything as long as I worked hard at it. And at Performing Arts, we had amazing training, amazing teachers. A lot of professionals would come in and they would talk to us about the business. We got to see, amazing Broadway shows, concerts. So we were exposed to amazing art, and that inspires you, and listening to great people talk to you inspires you. And so being in New York, where you have the greatest, entertainment that there is, and seeing it was incredibly inspiring for me. And I remember meeting Raul Julia, who was a great Latino actor who's no longer with us. And when I met him when I was a teenager, like 15, 16, I was like, oh my God, this is like a tall leading man who happens to be from Puerto Rico. And I was like, I'm tall, I'm Puerto Rican, and that means maybe there's a chance I could be a leading man. And so that was one of my passions, is doing theater and doing classical theater. So I really got into Shakespeare. I got into a lot of classical theater, and a lot of that had to do with having been exposed to people like Raul Julia and Clifton Davis, men of color who had crossed over and were leading men in theater. And that was incredibly inspiring.
Definitely, when you speak about speaking of great people and how those stories inspire you, I mean, look at me, I'm still doing it. Like, you guys' story inspires me. How you guys have the dedication and the passion to y'all's work and are still going and going and going and going, even through all the rejection and all the sometimes,
And there is a
BS.
lot of, yeah, there's enormous rejection. The majority of the things you audition for, you don't get. But we're now at a time, I've come to a place in my life, and actually coming out of COVID, where we're doing all these self tapes from home because we have to. I see my self tapes. I edit my self tapes. And self tapes, for people who are listening, are the first audition, the first thing that a casting director will see. Like, when you get an audition, you have to videotape your audition scenes. And so they will see you and hear you performing the material that you're auditioning for the first time. And if they like what they see, they'll give you a call back. And so, but a lot of times you'll send off that self tape and you won't get a call back. And I would say the majority of the self tapes you send out, you will not get a call back for. But that doesn't mean that I don't do my absolute best. I work on the material. I commit to the material. I give it 100%, and I'm proud of the work that I send out because you know, I'm a professional and I believe in what I have to give, and I want to maintain my reputation as an artist. So, you know, in answer to your question, I still, I still believe in my dream. I want to just continue doing my art, my acting, my singing, my performing, in whatever medium it is, whether it's in theater, TV, film, voiceover, animation, whatever it is. I give it my best all the time because that's who I am as an artist. That's what I believe in.
Mm, preaching, yes, sir. Preaching. Seriously, you gotta believe in your dream. You gotta be your biggest supporter when it comes to this stuff because it's cutthroat and it's
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
important.
It is. It is. I mean, it is cutthroat, but there's also a lot of great people that you meet along the way that have a dream as well that you work with, and you make a tribe of fellow artists, and you support each other. And that's really important too.
That's one thing that's cool about voice actors in particular that I hear a lot is that sometimes voice actors will call you and be like, hey, here's this audition. I don't think I'm right fit, but I think your voice fits perfect for it. That happens sometimes.
Right.
Or
Hmm.
when there's a character that they've done in the past and they're about to get it, they'll call the other voice actor to make sure that's okay with them, because that's the characters they've played before. So
Right. Right. Right.
it's really cool to see that type of stuff. In the voiceover community specifically, it's really cool to see you guys do that for one another. I love that. It's a real community based thing, even though at the end of the day you guys are competing technically against each other for these roles. You guys are still very nice, very kind to one another. I love that.
Hmm.
I love that.
But yeah, it is a community, and there is a lot of work out there. I mean, now with technology, with media, with the amount of platforms there are for product, man, there's a lot of stuff out there. Whether it's you know, in animation, whether it's in commercial voiceover, whether it's in ADR, promo, books on tape. I mean, there's so much stuff. And I mean, even when you go on and you watch, all of the different networks. I mean, there's so many shows now, and a lot of times, all of these shows that are produced in foreign countries because they want more product. All of these big networks want more product. They're dubbing stuff into English. So now a lot of actors are dubbing, stuff from Turkey, from Portugal, from Italy, from Spain, from South America, because they just want more shows, and so that gives voice actors more opportunities to work. So the dubbing industry is just taking off, taking off.
Especially with stuff like anime that's huge now. There are tons of people who are huge into the Japanese animes and
Oh yeah,
shows and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Those are
Hmm.
big. And I can only assume it's going to get bigger. We're having so much stuff out here. Like you said, these companies want more content. They have streaming services and
Hmm.
this, that, and the third. They want people to come and give them their bucks. So, of course, they're going to want some more content. They need some great actors and performers such as yourself. It's really exciting for people like me who want to do voice acting or just acting
Hmm.
in general. Is a really exciting time, but also
Hmm.
there's sort of an intimidating factor too because there is so much out there and there's so many people who want to do it and stuff like that. So it's
Well,
definitely interesting.
I encourage any young actor, any young voice actor, however you define yourself, to train. Wherever you are locally, if you're close to a city area, usually there are voice acting studios where you work with professional people and you learn about techniques, and you learn about your own voice, and you learn how to use your own voice, and that's how you start. and then you start laying stuff down, putting tracks down, so you hear yourself, and then you get, those people that you train with are going to hear you, and they'll give you critiques, constructive criticism, so that you can make the changes you need to make, adjustments, you grow, and then you can, once you feel confident, you could start, looking for representation, looking for an agent to send your stuff out there to compete. But I encourage people to get some formal training before you jump in, because you really need to have a perspective to know what the business is like, how your voice is gonna, how it's gonna land, in terms of how they hear you, how you how you hear yourself, so that you have a constructive perspective on who you are as an actor.
Absolutely. And man, we're speaking about voice acting, voice acting, voice acting. I'm curious, how did you find yourself in the voice acting community and just doing voice acting in general? Because I know, like you said, you're theater bred, theater born, you come from this
Mhm.
theater background. How'd you land up here?
It's all related, because when I was in New York back in the 80s, I was with a pretty big commercial agency for on camera. And I guess I was a good type in terms of the way I look. So they wanted to represent me, not just for commercials, but for print work, for voiceover. And so because I speak Spanish fluently, obviously they wanted me to audition for things in two languages, and because I don't have an accent when I speak English, I don't have a Spanish accent, and when I speak Spanish, I don't sound like an American speaking Spanish. I sound like a Latino. They I can do those, and so they so I would go out on auditions for stuff in both languages, and in the beginning it was more challenging because I didn't know, like I just finished explaining about young actors learning about their voice and learning about how how their voice is going to be received from the casting world. um, I had to take classes myself, and learn about the different techniques, because there's a definite technique for commercial voiceover. There's a technique for animation for characters. There's a technique for promo. There's a technique for each aspect of voiceover, and you've got to educate yourself. So in the beginning, I really tried to learn as much as I could, and I would put out, demos of my voice in different categories. And as I got older, I just continued to perfect my technique in all the different areas, uh, and and so that's basically how I got started. And when I came out to LA, I was very fortunate to get into the looping world. And looping, if people don't know what that is ADR. Looping is when we do background voices in film and TV shows, and we're basically the crowd behind the principal actors, because when they film the scenes, they only the principal actors are the only ones who have microphones. The people who are in the background are just moving their mouths as if they're talking, but they can't talk because it's going to just be too loud for them to record the principal actors. So they'll film it that way, and then we go in after the scenes have been filmed, and we'll go into a sound stage, and then we will watch the movie, and then they'll record separate tracks of us literally filling in those people's mouths that are moving and putting real words into it, and we will do it step by step like music if we have to, because some of it is very precise, some of it is general, and we'll do different passes to fill that all in, so that when you see that in its final cut, it sounds like all those people in the background were actually talking when they filmed, but in actuality, they were not. You had actors come in after the fact and fill it all in, and that's what looping is.
That is cool. I was just researching. You've done so much, and we're definitely gonna get more into the ADR things that you've done. But this list right here, my God, I just wrote down some of them. You've been part of the ADR Looping group for Deadpool 2, Logan, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Megamind, X-Men Days of Future Past, Fast and Furious 6, Life of Pi, Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes film, and so many more. Like I said in the beginning,
Yeah,
50
that isn't
plus.
even all of my stuff. That's only part of the
Only
looping.
part, y'all.
That's only part. I've done hundreds and hundreds of films and television shows of looping. So I have to say I've been really fortunate to have been cast in so much looping ADR work since the 90s, early 90s when I came out to LA. That's where my training as an actor, improvisational background comes in handy because when you do looping, you got to really be able to think fast. You got to come up with all of that language, all of that stuff that you got to fill in those mouths. You just are actors on a sound stage, and you got to have to recreate the reality of what you see on the screen. So my background as an actor definitely helps because then I can allow myself to make believe and become those people that I see.
That training, y'all get that training. Do do that stuff. Look up improv classes. Come on, baby, get into it. If you really want to do
Yeah,
it, look that
yeah,
stuff up, man. It's really
yeah,
important. All that stuff,
yeah,
really important to it.
yeah.
That's
But I have,
awesome.
I've been really fortunate, really blessed to have done a quite an extensive amount of ADR looping. I literally was just watching Father of the Bride, the new Andy Garcia film. I just finished looping that the last couple of months, so it was fun to hear my voice a couple of times in the movie because the movie's really nice. I mean, the final cut came out really great, and it really was a fun movie to watch. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're good. Definitely, like I said, we're getting back into that. But to diverge from the voiceover side a little bit, you've done also a lot of on camera, like you say, like NCIS and Citizen Jane,
Hmm.
and you've been in movies. This House of Sand and Fog, I believe. Yeah, with
Hmm.
Ben Kingsley and Jennifer
Hmm.
Connelly. You've been in a ton of stuff. What do you enjoy about on camera and just the set life in general?
What do I enjoy about on camera, the on camera like experience, the like what that's all about? Is that the question?
What do you enjoy about the on camera experience and being on set?
You know, it's a whole other that is a whole other dynamic. I mean, you talk about theater, that's like in front of an audience, it's live. The show starts, you do it, and no, you don't stop. On camera, when you're working on film and television, it's so much more of a director's medium because you stop and start. It's all about making sure that you got the right shot, the right angle, the right lighting. So as an actor, you got to just be in the zone of your character, but know that you're going to do that same thing many, 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 many times. And the great thing about that is you get to work with some wonderfully talented people in different locations, different material, and you get to really bring your game to that project, and get to play. You get to create whatever it is that writer has put on that page, bring that to life, and tell that story in a whole other medium. you know and as actors, what's really cool is that if you are lucky enough that you get to work in all mediums, you get to, like, play your instrument and get the opportunity to do that in different ways, which is pretty amazing. Because I've worked with some really amazing talent on film and TV, big names that I was really just so in awe of. I remember working with Robin Williams, and he was just an incredible performer. I was so happy to have worked with him. I mean, years later, he passed away too young, but I remember him on the set of Birdcage. He was like a force of nature. And Mike Nichols directed that. It was a really lovely man, brilliant director, and just the nicest, most generous director, nicest guy. And just watching, people at that level work, it's just inspiring. You're inspired, Ben Kingsley was just the nicest man, and just so giving and so unassuming, but such a brilliant actor. I got to work with Sean Penn, who's another great actor, uh, in uh, uh, in Nick Cassavetes' film. She's so lovely, and I've just gotten the chance to work with some really great people. Gene Wilder in his sitcom years ago was the nicest guy. Not to name drop, but I'm just naming these people that are they're
I was like, you
iconic
flexing on
stars.
us for a little bit.
They're iconic stars, but they're the nicest people. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is like, you get to work with these people that are really truly stars, icons, and they're just like you and me. They're nice people, or at least I think I'm a nice person.
we all do, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you. You've gotten these experiences to work with, like you even said, like these iconic stars. Sometimes it's like this staying around Hollywood where it's like, oh, all the on camera people are evil and they just want money, rah, 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 rah. But it's like,
Well,
you don't,
yeah.
you
I'm
don't.
sure there are people like that. Fortunately, I haven't worked with too many of them.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you've got to experience the kindness of some of these great talents and gotten to have feed off of that energy of those respective talents
Hmm.
and what they bring to each project. So that's a blessing, really. That's really a
Hmm.
blessing to get
Hmm.
that, man. And that stuff does influence your performance, seriously. Like it really does. Working with like even a great director, like that really influences and empowers your performance as well. Like even a great director can really pump you up and put that life into you. A lot of times to speak to voice acting a little bit, with video games, and you've done tons of games, usually
Hmm.
working with yourself and you have the engineer and the director there,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you can attest to multiple times when the director has just really helped you give your best performance possible in those scenarios when it's just you and them.
Yeah, yeah. And usually, video games is a whole other game in terms of a whole other dynamic in terms of performance, because it's very, you got to create that character pretty quickly, and they move fast. So usually, if you've been cast in a video game, it's because your voice really has the right quality, and you have already shown them exactly what they needed to hear to cast you, and they tend to work really fast. So you got to produce that sound and give them that performance pretty quickly, and once you have that sound, once you're in the pocket of what that character and that dynamic is, you're pretty much, you just do it, and that's been my experience, as an actor in video games. um you know
Don't spoil
uh
too much. Now we're gonna get into that. Come on, don't spoil too. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Nah, I'm glad. I always love hearing. I love hearing your experience in this industry, man. It's really awesome to hear the differences between each different type of medium, because some people don't know too much about the acting, and that's what we're here for, baby. We're here to let you know the difference, what it is and what it's not, and help explain what it is, and show you what it's truly about, what this big vast industry is. And it's growing and it's growing and it's getting up there and up there and up there, and it just feels like there's a new show or a new movie or a new game every single day at this point. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and it's really awesome to know the differences and get your perspective on each different type of work, though similar, like the differences between each of your respective mediums that you perform in. So it's really
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are, and the more you do it, obviously, you know how to gauge your performance, you know, based on that. You have a perspective ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good to know that you are able to tap into that and know what to do,
Hmm.
to give the best possible performance as you can. And I'm gonna go back more into this ADR thing, looping, because I'm very fascinated by that. I haven't spoke to too many people who have as long as a resume as yours in that field, so I'm really interested and want to go back to that just a little bit. How'd you end up getting involved with ADR and looping, and what do you enjoy the most about that process?
I got involved with ADR looping, or like I said, early on in the 90s. I moved out to LA from New York in 1990. And I want to say I started doing some ADR. I had done ADR for myself because when you do principal work on camera, you have to then, after it's filmed, you have to go back in and like oftentimes redo some of the voice stuff that you filmed on set because there might be glitches from background sounds, or you weren't mic'd well enough, or they want a different performance. And so you go in and you give them, you know, more takes of what you recorded. But when I did started doing background was early 90s, and I had never really done group before. I didn't even know that world existed, and it is a pretty coveted group. Everybody wants to be a part of it, but it's a very closed group because it's, how do I say it? They like to use people that they know and people that they trust can deliver the stuff that they need. And so to get to that place takes work, it takes luck. And I was fortunate enough to slowly get into that circle because I think my background as an actor certainly was a big influence on the quality of the work I would bring onto a soundstage when I was looping, and also that I'm bilingual, also that I could do different character voices. Um, that served me in the world of voiceover in general, but in looping, to be different characters. Um, and so that really was my kind of calling card. That was like that was played a big part in my getting more work. And then with looping, it's very much about referral. You work with one group, and then your name gets passed to another group, and so on and so on. So over the years, people just start to know who you are, and they know that you can deliver what they're going to need in that particular project. And so you continue to get called in, and then you become one of the guys. One of the people that works in whatever that age group you're in at the time. You know.
And you've definitely become one of the guys. Like I said, man, this resume for ADR is extremely impressive. One show that you were part of, tons of stuff that I love, obviously, but you did ADR for one of my all-time favorite Marvel shows. This is not up for debate. Legion on FX. You did some stuff for that. Do you remember what exactly you did for Legion?
There was just a lot of obviously efforts, a lot of fighting, a lot of there's just you just have to be able to do a lot of efforts and hits and really be good at knowing how to recreate that on a sound stage. It's kind of like what I did when I revoiced stuff for the Marvel films that I did, because I did a bunch of those. A lot of the action movies that I've done is because we're really good at knowing how to recreate fights and knowing how to just go for that. And that's definitely it's definitely a technique, and I've done a bunch of that. I was really fortunate because I early on I got cast to do ADR in The Shield. The Shield was a series on FX And then the producers of that went on to do Sons of Anarchy, and now they're doing Mayans. So I've done all of those, you know. So we're going back many years, but I've done pretty much every episode of all of that entire series, those series. So that kind of like was a big training ground for a lot of fighting and a lot of efforts, you know. If you know those shows.
Yeah, no, Sons of Anarchy is huge. My mom loves that show with Ron Perlman and the rest of the great people on there,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
I have to check out the Mines though. I've not seen that. I have to check that one out though. I have to
Oh
check
yeah,
that
well
one
it's
out.
like basically, you know, it's Sons of Anarchy but with a Latino gang. You know?
Yeah, definitely excited to check that one out. But you've done a ton of on top of ADR additional voices too, and we could hear you in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That has to be one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man movies. Just it's
Yeah,
so
that's a cool
beautiful.
movie. That was the one where Spider-Man is like he's a Latino from New York. That was so awesome. That was like I was like, man, that is so dynamite that they made him a Latino. He's an Afro Latino. So it was like you got both of that whole, you know, worlds were covered in that. And I thought that was excellent. I was really happy to see that.
I
And
can't wait.
that shows you how the industry is changing, you know, that they're slowly becoming more open to, you know, bringing in people characters of color. They still got a long way to go, but at least they're starting. But they got a long way to go. But I'm
Absolutely.
glad to see that, you know, I'm seeing it happen, at least at the beginning, you know, but they have a ways to go.
Gone are the days where you would just see a black character or a Latino character in the background when two white guys were going at it. Now, you know what I'm saying? It's we have Latinos and leading shows and Asians and we
Yeah,
have
yeah, 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 yeah.
we have
Definitely, definitely, and it's gonna hopefully happen more and more. You know, I think it needs to, it has to, because you know, I mean, Latinos make up what 20% of the population right now in the United States, but we're not 20% of the characters that you see on TV, right? Or 20% of the characters in movies, um, because we're just they don't write enough stuff for Latinos in those in television or film, and that has to happen. And I think the more Latino writers we have that know how to write authentically for Latinos, so that when people see themselves represented, Latinos see themselves represented, they feel like, okay, they're telling the truth. That's real. That's not just a stereotype, the same stereotype of the Latin, you know, maid or the Latin drug user or the Latin, you know, gang member. Because I mean, I'm kind of tired of those stories, those plot points. We've seen that a million times. I'm ready to see more of the Latino who's, you know, the politician, the Latino who is, you know, more doctor Latinos,
more
more
superheroes.
more superheroes, more Latinos who are, you know, the leads and who have, you know, they're the good guys, but they happen to be Latino, right? And we don't all have to have an accent. We could talk without an accent, but we have brown skin and we're Latino.
Right, that's why I'm excited for stuff like Blue Beetle, which has a Latino star as Blue Beetle, because Blue Beetle, the character of Jaime Reyes, is Latino, and then we have rumors for the new Black Panther 2 movie that the villain is going to be from Mexico. He's gonna,
Nice.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Namor is apparently going to be Mexican, and that's really cool. So I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so it's really cool to see, like you said, just more diverse stories getting told and people being represented better, albeit like you said, much more work to go, and there are definitely ways to tweak other representation that we've seen so far, but it's really
Mhm.
nice to see it be done and to be done correct to an extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
And
it's really a
that's gonna
blessing.
happen more and more as we have more Latino writers who write well, who write authentically, that people see, audiences see themselves portrayed correctly on screen or on stage. And there's so many stories that need to be told, Latino stories that haven't been told. I mean, there's like an amazing, incredible amount of stories that have yet to be written, that are going to be written, and that are going to be amazing. You know, because we have an incredible culture and a very diverse culture. Because you have all different types of, you know, Latin experiences, man. A ton, a ton.
And I'm glad to be here to see that shift and to see that change and to see where it goes, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you've done a ton of video games. I want to speak about your extent in the video game arena. First of all, are you a gamer yourself? Do you play video games?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I do play them on my Oculus. I do play a little bit on my Oculus. I have an Oculus, and
Lucky.
I do some of my some workout stuff there. But not. I'm not a gamer. So no, I don't. I wouldn't say I'm a gamer. But I like to act in games. You know.
Have you done mocap?
I have done mocap. Yeah, I have. Yes, that's a whole other game, man. Yeah, I've done one mocap. I think it was Devil's Cartel that I was mocap. Yeah, that was
Nice.
yeah.
It's really awesome to see how mocap is changing too. You know, like you're starting to move away from the balls on your suit to where you could just like come in your everyday clothes, and they're just like, "All right, stand right there. All right, we got you. Now go to the stage and do your
Right, right,
thing."
right, right.
Now it's really
Yeah, when I
cool.
did mocap, it took like a long time to get suited up, and I had to have all these sensors put all over me, so that then they could film it, and then the computer could pick it up, and then they could do all of their enhancements and all of their editing after the fact. But I'm sure now it's like they've perfected it, like you said. But I did mine years ago, and it was in the early stages. It was prehistoric mocap.
Dinosaur era mocap.
Yeah, yeah, I was a dinosaur era mocap.
Now I want to speak about just briefly Cyberpunk 2077 was a huge game that
Uh-huh.
came out, and you play two characters in that, Sebastian and El Gallo. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, El Gallo.
El Gallo.
Or they could say
Yeah.
Gallo. Maybe the Americans say Gallo, but in Spanish it's Gallo. But yeah. But I think Father Sebastian was like more of the principal role that I did. El Gallo is but it's another part. So I did two parts, yeah. But I
Yeah.
like
What did
Sebastian. I like the fact that he was a priest, but he was really a bad guy.
I was looking at some clips and I was like, whoa, this is insane. What did you enjoy the most about playing both of those characters? And what was your overall experience of working on Cyberpunk 2077 like?
It was a great experience. The creative team on that were fantastic to work with. They really like actors. They really want the actors to bring their game to their voices and their ideas to the performance. So they kind of really uh, support you in really exploring and creating that sound for each of your characters, and and it was a really collaborative experience. We worked together and like finding the right tone, the right sound, and it was very relaxed, very it was a fun experience. We did several takes of everything so that they had choices for what they finally ended up using when they cut it. And I just like all the people involved. They were great.
That's awesome. Out of the two characters, you prefer the pastor one, the priest?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Only because he was more of a son of a bee. He was more of a son of a bitch. But he hid behind his religious thing. But he was really he was a lech. you know, and the bad guys are always the best to play. They're the most fun to play because bad guys never think they're bad. bad guys always think that they have a reason to do what they're doing. It's the only way to play it, you know.
Gotta find that reason to add that depth and much needed depth. Ugh, can't speak to
Depth,
that to make
depth,
that
and
character.
depth and psychoses.
Yes, to make
Yeah.
that character great and really pop off of the pages.
Hmm.
Cyberpunk was a big game, but another big game you've been a part of is Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and you played a Strike Force soldier. How did you end up on Black Ops 2, and what do you remember about the recording process for the soldiers?
In that experience, it was really, I could really produce a big sound. I could sound intense, excuse me, vocally, and it really is about. And I think my looping experience definitely comes into play here because I'm so comfortable behind the microphone, and I can really create those situations pretty quickly because of I've having done it so much in ADR. So I just, you know, recall it just being about let's go in there, let's watch these scenes that are all about action, and let's just record it. So I'm pretty experienced doing that. So that was what that was about.
Did you audition for it?
Yeah, yeah. Everything that I've done, I've auditioned for, pretty much. So now I'm at a place where people will offer me stuff because I've my body of work is pretty extensive at this point. So I'll get offered things, but not all the time. But sometimes I do. Yeah.
That's nice. That's awesome. Very happy for you for that. And that was a big franchise. Call of Duty is a huge franchise, but another franchise, save the best for last, baby. Star Wars, Quaylen Vos, Star Wars The Clone Wars, such a phenomenal series of episodes and just characters and wacky and cool ideas that we still see influence the Star Wars universe today. And Quaylen Vos was name dropped in the new Kenobi series. Like I thought that was so cool
Uh
to
huh.
to hear that, and I'm just a huge fan of this character. Even though he was only in one episode, which sucks. I know they were gonna do more with him with the Dark Disciple arc, but unfortunately the show got canceled before they could
Right, right.
finish
Yeah, I
it.
was really bummed out when that happened because they had called my agent up at the time and said, "Oh, we're going to use Al for all these other episodes for this coming season," and then the whole thing got scraped. So I was like, "Oh man, I can't do Quinlan right now. I'm not going to be able to." So, but we did do that one episode, and that was a blast. And at that time, Quinlan Vos hadn't really portrayed him before, so that was the first time that Quinlan got brought to life, and I was fortunate enough to do it, and I had a blast, and I had fun. I created like a real cool character, and I just I had a great time. The people who did it, who were working alongside me, were really amazing talents, and it was a lot of fun to do.
Were you a Star Wars fan before working on the Clone Wars?
Yeah, I've loved Star Wars ever since it came out. I mean, the first time I saw Star Wars, God, I was in high school. It came out in the late 70s, and Star Wars when it first came out was like nothing I had ever seen. It was a whole other world was opened up, and so it kind of blew my mind. And I actually was working in a movie theater at the time in Flushing, RKO Keith's, and so I would just sneak into the movie theater all the time and just sit there and watch because I was just blown away by all the special effects. I mean, now they've taken CGI has gone to a whole other place, but even now, the original Star Wars, even though it's very dated, it still is epic, and I just love it. Star Wars to me is like that's like the ultimate classic film of films, and the franchise is just epic too.
Huge Star Wars fan myself, and I couldn't agree more with that. And just to see
Yeah.
where it's headed, and all the books stuff come out, and all the shows on the way, and the movies that are being worked on, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
what do you remember about auditioning Quaylen Voss? Like, do you remember what the audition called for? Was it under a code name? What was the audition like?
I don't remember if it was under a code name. I think I just know that it was really the some of the scenes from the actual episode, and I just remember just thinking he was really cool and giving him a lot of edge because that's what Quinlan Vos is all about, edge and attitude. And I just found my that pocket in me that I thought was like him and just went for it. And that's how I ended up getting it, you know. That's
Oh
the
man.
situation where, it's the right time, the right voice, the right everything was right, you know.
What was it like to work with Dave Filoni on the Clone Wars?
Very cool. Everybody involved were great. The whole creative team was all, they were all their whole game at that point was to create something that they knew was really special, and they really put a lot into their writing, into their casting, into the playing of it. Because when you do those episodes, you would work with the whole cast and you would record it like a radio show. So you had the vibe in the sound stage in the room, hearing everyone's performance. So it was like you were doing a play, but it was a radio play. So you hearing all these amazing voices and this talent, and it just inspired you to just be be better, do more, be better, and that's always the best. When you're working with really good people and it makes your game better.
Obi-Wan and Cad Bane and Zero the Hutt were there, and of course, Obi-Wan is played famously by James Earl Taylor, and Cad Bane and Zero the Hutt played by Corey Burton. Did you get to work with those two?
I believe they were in the episode. I don't know if they were there when I was working. I think I heard them. uh I want to say I probably did, yeah, because they were, I believe, in the episode they were there. So, we were obviously not together all the time, but I did get to work with them, yeah.
So cool. Two of the greatest voice actors, man. Just fantastic talents. And they brought so much to the Clone Wars with their various voices and the different arcs that they went on throughout the series. So cool, man. What did you enjoy the most about the character of Quinlan and what he also brought to the universe?
Um, that's a great question. I think what I liked the most about him was that he didn't take himself too seriously, and he didn't let anybody else take themselves too seriously. Like he just had this kind of like uh this attitude, like, it's no big deal, like, let's kind of get on with life, and let's get over it, get over yourself, and and I'm just going to enjoy what I do. And that's kind of like where Quinlan's at. And but he happens to be good at what he does, but he's got this edge, this chip, which is very cool. And what does he bring? I think he's the anti-hero, but he gives people, like, he's not your typical, he doesn't fit into the category of your regular hero. And I think he kind of appeals to a lot of people that may not feel that way themselves. They feel like they're maybe they're the outcast, the outsider, but that they bring something too. So he's kind of like the anti-hero that people can look up to.
Oh, man. Quinlan is gone on so many adventures, and there's so much stuff you could do with him. And like we talked about, unfortunately, the series was canceled before we could go deeper with the Asajj arc and stuff like that. Such a shame, but
Although I
you
hear
know,
that he's coming into another series, so I'm sure there's going to be another actor doing his voice. It's not me, but I hear he's coming into another series.
nah, they have to. Oh,
Well, if they
no.
want to call me, I'm available. Just putting it out there.
Well, let's say if they were to bring back Quinlan, what would you want to see them do with the character?
Oh, explore his background, and it turned out that his parents were Puerto Rican. That he's really Latino, because actually he looks Latino. I mean, when they came out with when I saw what I looked like on the show, I was like, oh, that could have been a younger me, with a big wig. I actually did a character on a soap opera when I was in my early 20s that I wore a wig similar to that. And I was like, damn, man, did they like look up me up on that soap opera to make Quinlan look like me? Because it looks like me. No, but that would be kind of cool, that he turned out to be a Latino character,
There's so
that would
many.
be cool.
I mean, definitely. There's this universe is huge. I mean, there's aliens and droids. Why can't there be a
Yeah, I
Latino
mean
Jedi? You know.
Jimmy Smits and Oscar Isaac are in the world of Star Wars. So, and they're Latino. I don't think they make it. They don't bring it to light. They don't make it an issue. They just happen to be Latino in those movies. But I think it would be cool. I think the more that people feel included in the stories, the better. You know what I mean? Because we gotta open up the stories. The stories can't just all be about the same group of people all the time. We got to tell other stories so that everybody feels included. You know what I
The
mean?
importance of representation, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, now I want to go into the fun part of my interviews called Weird and Wacky, where you have 1 minute to answer a series of weird and random questions. No one has beaten the record of 16 questions answered in 1 minute. But the current championship title holder is David Boat with a record of 15 questions answered. Do you think you could beat him?
Give it my best shot.
All right, let's go. Now I'm about to get to the time. All right, there it is. All right, I'm about to start the timer in three, two, one. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite movie growing up?
Favorite movie? West Side Story.
Favorite thing to eat for dinner?
Rice and beans.
Your spirit animal?
Jaguar.
An actor you would like to work with one day?
Oscar Isaac.
How tall are you?
6 feet tall.
Favorite brand of shoes?
Favorite brand of what?
Shoes.
I don't know what that is.
Shoes. Of
Oh,
shoes.
shoes. Oh, Nike.
Do you watch the Marvel movies?
Yes.
Favorite genre of music?
Latin.
Biggest acting inspiration growing up?
Marlon Brando.
How show that you would like to star in one day?
A film.
Yeah.
A film that I like to star in one day.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Timer,
A
timer.
film that I like to star in. There's so many. I blew it because I couldn't understand a couple of things you said. So I
I
must have gotten
know.
like I think
My
I got like
mic,
11.
my
But I gave it
Wi-Fi,
my
my
best
Wi-Fi.
shot. I gave it my
You
best shot.
you did fantastic, man. And this is my last question for you today. And I just want to say this has been such an honor. I'm so glad I got to speak to you and to bring a fellow Puerto Rican on here was such an honor and to just get your story and to learn more great stories about you. So cool. And I really do hope you enjoyed your time here, man. But
I really
my
did.
that's awesome. My final question to you is, there's so much stuff going on around the world today. There's corona still going around. There's a lot of stuff that has just been affecting so many of us. So my question to you is, what would your current message to the world be during these current times that we live in? You're given a mic, the world could hear your message. What would you say to everyone?
We are coming out of a really, really horrible, pandemic that is actually still going on, like you just said. And there's a lot of real divisiveness right now in the government, in this country, in the world, actually. World peace is really being threatened in different places. So my biggest hope is that people will just come from a place of love and acceptance and honor our differences and be accepting of differences, because when you get down to it, we're really all the same. And regardless of your country, your ethnicity, your religion, your identity, we are all the same. And the more people could be open and accepting to that, I think we'll live in a better place.
Absolutely, man. Al, this is a fantastic interview. You've been a great guest. Is there anything you want to plug or promote before we head off?
Um, anything I want to plug or promote? Yeah, I'm coming out in on camera in a show on Apple TV called Jubilee. I'll be playing a principal role on that, and that's coming out on Apple TV sometime later this year. So check it out.
Guys, don't forget to follow me on the socials. Socials are in the link in the description. Before we leave, can I get a shout out in the voice of Quinlan Vos?
Oh, shout out. Yeah, I just want everyone to just, be cool and take care of themselves because these are some rough times. All right. All
I
right.
love that voice, man. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so
All
much for
right,
joining
man.
me. It's a
You're
great
awesome,
interview.
man. Keep doing you. Keep doing what you do because we need more people like you. Peace.
Thank you so much. Have a great one, man. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Have a great
Take
one,
care.
everyone. You too. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
And